The clatter of wrenches slapped against metal in the dim, grease-scented garage, and already the air hummed with urgency. The rusty sedan's engine coughed, refused to run. The mechanic, Slim Malone, muscle memory guiding his fingers, jammed the spark plug wrench into place and twisted hard. Sparks flew, literal sparks, as metal bit metal. He glanced at the faded license plate, WHP0925. Ordinary. He leaned in, hands racked with grease, muttering curses under his breath. Ah, come on. Just start for me. The girl behind him should have been out of place in this grime-smudged world, but here she was, steel gray eyes wide, expensive designer coat somehow already stained. Her voice was crisp. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to inconvenience you. She held a small, glittering keychain, a minimalistic logo, two interlocking triangles. Slim didn't bother looking over his shoulder. Your fuel pump shot, he declared. Could have died on the freeway. Lucky, really. He rifled through his tool stack. She swallowed. Can you fix it? I don't know anyone here. He smirked. Of course. But I'm not exactly, into billing CEOs at full rate. He winced. He'd said it. He'd heard himself say it. Did she look like a CEO? No. Slim saw a scared, stranded woman. He imagined her card. Crisp lines, the words CEO, and our family's fortune. He'd have balked at the bill. But he couldn't charge her now. She was lost, stranded, and he had pride, too. What do I owe you? She asked. Nothing. This one's on me. Slim ran to the back, grabbed a used fuel pump he'd taken off just yesterday. It was still good, cleaner than most. He tightened the new part. Wires clicked. He tested. The engine sprang to life with a rev that pounded through the garage. See, he glanced back, wiping sweat. Good as new. She stared at him, eyes flicking from his grease-blackened fingers to the scoreboard of life. The thrift of her gratitude clashing with the luxury of the world she came from. I don't have any cash. I can't, she stammered. He shook his head. You've already paid. With nerve and gratitude. Don't do this to yourself. She forced a laugh, lipstick smudged on her teeth. Thank you, Mr. Malone. Just call me Slim, he replied, wiping his hands. You're gonna get home safe. That's payment enough. Outside, the late afternoon sun fell through grime-streaked windows. She leaned against the hood, lank hair falling across her eyes. Slim. It's extraordinary. Most would have charged me hundreds, maybe 1,000. Slim shrugged, preparing a receipt template in his head for his own peace of mind, but he pressed it down. He liked things simple. She felt something shift then, part awe, part fear, part something she couldn't name. She straightened, offered her hand, slender fingers brushing greasy palms. I don't even know your name. He grinned. Doesn't matter. Keep driving. She nodded, sliding into the driver's seat. The engine idled strong. She let out a breath. Relief, gratitude, confusion tangled. Slim watched her headlights flicker on, then pull away. Late summer breeze rattled the garage door. He exhaled. Something about her stayed stuck to the air, electric in his lungs. Unbeknownst to him, that girl, Maddie Pierce, was the visionary CEO behind Pierce Global, a Fortune 500 tech empire. And the money she'd saved could have paid his mortgage for months. But that didn't matter in that moment. All he knew was, he'd done the right thing. And in the echo of that running engine, fate rattled with it. A collision course just begun. 3 days later, Slim was under a beat-up Ford F-150, sweat pouring off his forehead into his eyes. The midday Texas sun turned the garage into a furnace. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since morning. Rent was due in 4 days. He had $81, $46 in his bank account, and no backup plan. Then the doorbell rang. Slim slid out from under the truck and wiped his hands on a rag. He expected a customer, maybe some old guy with a leaky radiator or another teenager begging for a discount. Instead, there she was. Maddie, not in her muddy coat this time. She wore a black blazer, aviator sunglasses, and sleek jeans that screamed money. Her presence cracked like thunder in the quiet garage. You, Slim said, blinking. You lost your fuel pump again already? No, Maddie smiled. I'm here about something else. Slim folded his arms. You look different. I am different, she said softly. Because of you. Slim laughed, awkward. What did I do? Fix your car too good? You didn't ask me for anything. That doesn't happen often in my world. He shrugged. uncomfortable with her gaze. People need help. That's all. I did some digging, she continued, stepping closer. I know you've owned this place for 8 years. I know the city nearly condemned it last year. You've taken care of people in this town who couldn't pay you back. That means something. Slim's mouth opened. Closed. You investigating me, lady? She smiled. Call it research. Then she pulled out a folder from her leather bag and handed it to him. Inside, a business proposal. Clean lines. Big numbers. Too many zeros for Slim's eyes. I want to invest in you, Maddie said. You didn't know who I was, and you helped anyway. I like that. It's rare. Slim frowned. You want to buy my shop? No. I want to grow it. Franchise it. I believe in small-town integrity with big-time service. I want to put Slim's Auto in cities across America. He blinked. Lady, you got the wrong guy. I'm just a broke grease monkey with a bad back and one wrench away from foreclosure. Maddie stepped closer. Her voice lowered. You fixed my car in 20 minutes. I was stranded, and you treated me like a human being. That matters more to me than any pitch deck from Silicon Valley. Slim looked at the numbers again. Enough to clear his debts. Expand. Breathe. He rubbed the back of his neck. You serious? Dead serious, she said. And if you say yes, we start Monday. He stared at the folder. This wasn't just an investment, it was a lifeline. But somewhere deep in his gut, he felt a twist. Things like this didn't happen. Not to people like him. Still, something in Maddie's eyes said she wasn't bluffing. Slim looked up. All right, he said slowly. Let's talk terms. And just like that, the wheel of fate turned again. A poor mechanic. A millionaire CEO. And a deal that would change both of their lives in ways neither could predict. Because what Slim didn't know, what Maddie hadn't told him yet, was that someone from her world wasn't going to let this partnership happen without a fight. The deal was signed by Tuesday morning. Slim had never seen his name printed so sharply on something that didn't involve overdue notices. Maddie sat across from him in a downtown Austin office with floor-to-ceiling windows and cold brew coffee on tap. She looked like power in heels. He looked like he'd wandered in from the wrong part of town, which, in a way, he had. This is your life now, Maddie told him, sliding a sleek tablet across the glass table. It had renderings of a renovated shop, a new logo, marketing materials. We're starting with your garage. Then 2 more in Dallas. Then Houston. Slim couldn't speak. He just nodded and blinked. He rode the high for a full 2 days. But it didn't last. Friday morning, he found a man leaning against his garage's front window. Expensive suit. Hair too perfect. The kind of smug that came with owning everything in sight. He flicked ashes from a Slim cigarette on a Slim's cracked sidewalk. You Malone? The man asked. Slim, standing in coveralls stained from a busted transmission, nodded. Who's asking? The man stepped forward. I'm Ethan Roth. I work with Maddie Pierce. Or rather, I used to. Slim wiped his hands on a rag, eyeing him. You her assistant or something? Hardly, Ethan smirked. I was her fiancé. Slim froze. Ethan kept smiling. She tell you that part? Slim said nothing. She didn't just leave me for no reason. Ethan continued. She left because of that thing in Silicon Valley. Our last venture went sideways. The board blamed me. She didn't defend me. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. And now she's playing fairy godmother to some garage rat with a busted roof and no business plan? You really think she cares about you, Malone? Slim's jaw tightened. You here to threaten me or warn me? Neither, Ethan said. I'm here to offer you a way out before this whole fantasy collapses. You walk away from this partnership, and I make sure your shop gets a silent partner who'll keep it afloat. Quietly, cleanly, no headlines. Slim crossed his arms. And if I don't? Ethan's smile disappeared. Then you'll find out what happens when billionaires turn vindictive. He turned and walked to his car, a black Tesla that purred like a cat. Before getting in, he added over his shoulder, You have no idea what you've stepped into. Slim watched him go, fist clenched. He went inside. The garage felt colder now, quieter. The same place, but somehow different. He looked down at the tablet Maddie had given him. It still glowed bright, like a dream trying too hard to stay alive. He hadn't even cashed the first check. Now he had a choice. Trust the millionaire who came out of nowhere, or fear the one who'd been left behind. Slim didn't sleep that night. The garage, usually his sanctuary, felt like a loaded gun with the safety off. He kept hearing Ethan's words on repeat. You have no idea what you've stepped into. By morning, the decision was made. He called Maddie. We need to talk. In person. An hour later, she arrived, dressed down in sneakers and a flannel shirt, but still unmistakably out of place in his grimy world. He led her into the office, barely more than a back room with a fan and a coffee pot that hadn't worked since spring. I got a visitor yesterday, Slim said, straight to the point. Ethan Roth. Maddie froze. The color drained from her face for half a second, just enough for Slim to catch. He say something to you? She asked cautiously. He said everything, Slim replied. Told me he was your fiancé. Told me to walk away. Maddie sighed, sat down. He was my fiancé. Until I found out he'd been skimming money from our joint accounts to cover his own debts. He nearly tanked one of our startups. I took the fall in the press for it because it was cleaner that way. You didn't think I should know? Slim asked, crossing his arms. I didn't want to bring that poison into this, she said quietly. I wanted one part of my life to stay pure. Slim didn't like the word pure. Nothing in his life had ever been. Not the shop, not his past, not even his damn conscience. He threatened me, Slim said. Tried to buy me off. Then we'll handle it legally. Slim laughed bitterly. Lady, I can't afford legally. My version of conflict resolution is a wrench and a prayer. Maddie stood. Then let me handle it. No, Slim said. That's the problem. This thing, it's yours. Your name, your money, your power. I'm just the poster boy for a redemption story. Her face hardened. You think this is about image? I think this is a storm, and I'm standing in the middle of it without an umbrella. Silence fell. Then, softer, Maddie said, do you trust me? Slim looked at her, really looked at her, past the gloss and the brand and the wealth. He saw the woman who had stood helpless outside his garage that first day, lost and real. I want it, he said. Then let me prove it. She reached into her bag, pulled out a small silver box, and slid it across the desk. Slim opened it. Inside was a key. A single key. To what? He asked. To your future, Maddie said. New shop. State of the art. I signed the lease in your name this morning. No strings. Whether we work together or not, it's yours. Slim stared. I owe you, she continued. Not just for fixing my car, but for reminding me that good people still exist. Before he could respond, her phone buzzed. She checked the screen. Her face paled. What is it? Slim asked. She swallowed. Ethan just filed an injunction. He's claiming intellectual property theft on the Slim's auto branding. Says it's his idea. Slim blinked. He's trying to take my name? No, she said. He's trying to erase it. The headline hit by noon. Millionaire CEO's ex-fiancé sues over small-town auto shop deal. Claims idea was his. Slim stared at his cracked phone screen as his shop phone rang off the hook in the background. His stomach churned. The article had a photo of Maddie from a tech summit 2 years ago, standing beside Ethan Roth. They looked like a power couple straight out of a magazine. Underneath, a blurry photo of Slim holding a wrench outside his garage. He didn't read the full article. Didn't need to. Because by the time he looked up, a news van had already parked outside the shop. Maddie was there within the hour. She stormed in, barely holding it together. He leaked our entire investor pitch, she said, tossing her phone on the counter. All the numbers, designs, concepts. He had someone steal it off my drive before we split. Slim stayed silent. He's manipulating the narrative, she said, pacing. He's framing it like I used you as a pawn in a revenge scheme. Slim gritted his teeth. Ain't far from how it feels right now. That stopped her cold. She turned to him, eyes wide. You don't believe that. Slim shrugged, looking away. You show up. Offer to save my life. Then your past starts trying to bury me alive. I didn't sign up for this mess. No, she said, voice trembling. You didn't. And I'm sorry. But I didn't expect Ethan to go nuclear either. He finally looked at her. What does he want, Maddie? She paused. Then quietly. He wants to destroy me. Why? Because I walked away from him and didn't flinch, she said. Because I dared to rebuild without him. And because I found something better in a place he never would have looked. Slim felt something tighten in his chest. Then the shop door opened. 2 men in suits entered, holding clipboards. Samuel Malone, one asked. Yeah. You've been served, he said, dropping a thick envelope on the counter. Cease and desist. Effective immediately. All Slim's auto branding must halt until the case is resolved. They walked out without another word. Slim stared at the envelope. That's it, he muttered. He's shutting me down. No, Maddie said, stepping closer. He's trying to scare you. But I won't let him win. Slim looked at her, then at the envelope. I built this place with my hands. My father ran it before me. This name, it means something. Then we fight, she said. Not just for the name, but for the story behind it. Outside, reporters were already swarming. Cameras flashed. Someone shouted his name. And for the first time in his life, Slim understood what it meant to be caught between a lie and a legacy. The courtroom was ice cold, but Slim was sweating bullets. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and tired eyes, sat high above, tapping her gavel with the slow rhythm of judgment. To Slim's left sat Maddie, her jaw clenched, suit flawless. Across the aisle, Ethan Roth leaned back, oozing confidence in a tailored navy suit, his lawyer whispering in his ear with a predator's grin. It felt like Slim had wandered onto the set of a movie he never auditioned for. The case: Ethan Roth versus Pierce Enterprises and Samuel Malone. Ethan claimed that Slim's auto was a stolen intellectual property. His idea, he argued, born during his engagement to Maddie and discussed at private board meetings. He provided dated pitch documents, manipulated emails, and twisted timelines. Slim couldn't believe what he was hearing. He's saying he invented my life, Slim muttered under his breath. Maddie leaned over. He's building a paper trail out of smoke. We'll dismantle it. But the judge wasn't so easily convinced. After 3 hours of testimony, the damage was real. Ethan's lawyer painted Maddie as an impulsive CEO looking to weaponize a poor mechanic for emotional revenge. Slim was framed as a willing pawn, using Maddie's guilt and wealth to dig himself out of poverty. When it was Slim's turn to speak, he stood, hands trembling. He'd never spoken in court before, never even been inside one. He cleared his throat. My name's Samuel Malone. People call me Slim. I fix cars. I've done it my whole life. Never thought that'd get me into a lawsuit. There were some chuckles. I didn't know who Maddie was when I fixed her car. I didn't ask for money. And when she offered help, I hesitated. 'Cause men like me don't get saved. We get passed over. He looked over at Ethan. But I never lied. I never took anything. This name, Slim's Auto, it came from my dad. Painted it on that rusted sign with his own hands. You can drive down Route 9 and still see the fading letters. This ain't some boardroom brand. He paused, voice low now. I don't know how billionaires settle scores, but I know what truth feels like. And this ain't it. Silence followed. The judge watched him closely. No expression. After court adjourned, Maddie and Slim stepped out into the blinding afternoon sun. Reporters swarmed them, microphones flying, cameras rolling. Mr. Malone, are you Maddie Pierce's romantic partner? Miss Pierce, is this lawsuit retaliation? Are you funding his legal defense with company money? Slim grabbed Maddie's arm and pulled her through the crowd. They ducked into a side alley, breathing hard. You okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. You? She hesitated. Then no. I think I just lost 3 investors today. Slim looked at her. Why are you still doing this? She met his gaze. Because I started this for me. But I'm finishing it for you. Before he could say anything, her phone buzzed. She answered, her face changing immediately. What is it? Slim asked. She hung up, eyes wide. They found something, she said. What? A recording, she whispered. From the boardroom. Ethan, he made a mistake. The flash drive arrived in a plain envelope, no return address. Maddie opened it in the dim back office of Slim's garage, laptop humming quietly as she inserted the drive. Slim stood behind her, arms folded, heart pounding. The file was labeled boardroom_audio_confidential_May 23. Wave. She clicked play. At first, nothing. Then Ethan's voice, clear and smug. Look, Maddie's not going to fight me on this. She'll walk away like she always does. The guy's a mechanic. He's lucky I even let her throw money at that charity project. Once it's up and running, we file IP claims and take it. She won't have the spine to push back. Slim blinked. His jaw clenched. Another voice, one of Ethan's advisors, maybe, asked, Won't that look bad publicly? Ethan laughed. Publicly? Please. All I need is a sob story, a few old files with backdated timestamps, and a good lawyer. We'll bury him in paperwork. He'll fold in a week. Maddie paused the audio. Silence filled the room. Slim exhaled slowly. That son of a... Don't, Maddie said. We use this. We don't stoop to his level. Slim looked at her. This proves everything. He planned to steal it. From both of us. And now we let it burn him. They brought the recording to their attorney, who nearly dropped his coffee. Where did you get this? He asked. Anonymous, Maddie replied. But it's real. It matches Ethan's voice print. I've got other meetings recorded from that same day. Timecodes match. The attorney leaned forward. Then we've got him. By the next hearing, everything had changed. The courtroom was packed. Press, investors, even former employees of Pierce Global who had shown up out of loyalty or curiosity. Everyone smelled blood. When the judge admitted the audio into evidence, Ethan's face went gray. His lawyer scrambled, objecting on grounds of chain of custody, but the judge overruled. Then Maddie took the stand. I stepped away from Ethan Roth not because he failed professionally, but because he manipulated people, gaslit board members, and weaponized money. I believed walking away would be the end of it. I was wrong, but I won't be bullied into silence anymore. The crowd was riveted. Ethan, flustered, leaned toward his attorney, whispering furiously. Slim watched from the gallery, gripping the bench like it was the edge of a cliff. The judge recessed to review the audio overnight. That night, Maddie and Slim sat on the hood of an old Buick behind the shop, sharing a six-pack of cheap root beer. You saved your business, she said softly. Slim shook his head. No, you did. I'd have walked away if it weren't for you. Maddie looked at him, eyes softer than he'd seen before. You gave me back my backbone. They sat in silence under the stars. Then Slim asked, You think it's over? She hesitated. Not yet, but soon. Neither of them saw Ethan that night, or the unmarked black car that followed them home. At 2:17 a.m., the explosion shattered every window within a 3-block radius. Slim's garage lit up the night sky, orange flames devouring wood, oil, and the last piece of his father's legacy. Maddie bolted upright in Slim's guest room, heart pounding. The boom had shaken the foundation of the house. Slim was already gone, racing toward the smoke barefoot, jeans half-zipped. By the time they reached the garage, fire trucks were screaming down the street. Neighbors stood outside in pajamas, watching in stunned silence as Slim's auto went up in flames. Back up. Everyone back. Firefighters yelled. Slim stood frozen, ash falling around him like black snow. His eyes didn't blink. His breath was gone. It's gone, he whispered. It's all gone. Maddie ran up beside him, grabbing his arm. Slim, we have to move back. I just painted that sign, he said dazed. Took me all weekend. He staggered forward, but a firefighter caught him and pulled him away from the collapsing awning. Arson investigators arrived within the hour. Maddie stood with one of them as the smoldering ruin crackled in the background. Any idea who'd want to do this? The investigator asked. She didn't hesitate. Yes. Back at the precinct, Maddie showed them the audio recording. She showed them emails, timelines, receipts, how Ethan had motive, means, and the perfect cover. He's losing the lawsuit, she told them. Now he's lashing out. But Ethan had an alibi. He was in Los Angeles at a corporate event. Pictures, timestamps, multiple witnesses. Too clean. Too perfect. Maddie left the station shaking. He planned it, she said as they drove back through what was left of their neighborhood. But he made sure someone else got their hands dirty. Slim sat in silence beside her, a 1,000-yard stare in his eyes. Everything's gone, he whispered. My dad's tools. His picture. My ledger. 20 years of oil and grit and blood, all turned to smoke. Maddie pulled over and grabbed his hand. Listen to me. He can burn down a building, but he can't erase you. That fire? That's his panic. He knows he's losing. Slim turned to her. I don't care about the lawsuit anymore. I don't want a courtroom win. Maddie stared at him. Then what do you want? I want to finish this, he said. My way. She frowned. What do you mean? Slim's voice was cold. He wanted a war. Let's give him one. 3 days after the fire, Slim walked into the very heart of Ethan Roth's world. Pierce Global HQ stood like a monument of glass and steel in downtown Austin. 37 floors of power, ego, and legacy. Slim entered the lobby in a borrowed suit, the smell of ash still clinging faintly to his skin. He didn't belong there, and he didn't care. Maddie was already waiting in the conference room. Ethan walked in last, sunglasses still on despite the tinted windows, flanked by 2 attorneys and a smug PR director. He grinned like nothing had happened. Well, Ethan said, tossing a file on the glass table. Glad to see you survived the accident. Slim didn't flinch. Maddie stood. Let's cut the theatrics. You came here for a reason. So did we. Ethan leaned back in his chair. Sure. I figured I'd offer you both an exit ramp. Withdraw the lawsuit, walk away, and I'll forget all this ever happened. Slim smirked. You burned down my shop. Prove it, Ethan said flatly. Maddie slid a folder across the table. Inside, a digital forensics report. A hacked chat log from a burner phone tied to one of Ethan's former assistants, now mysteriously missing. The messages detailed payment, timing, instructions. Still want us to prove it? She said. Ethan's jaw twitched. Slim leaned in. You really thought you were untouchable, didn't you? I am, Ethan snapped. You're nobody. You fix cars. You don't even own a real suit. This, he gestured around, is out of your league. Slim smiled. Maybe, but you forgot one thing. He reached into his coat and pulled out a flash drive. This has everything. Your boardroom recordings, fraud documents, chat logs, the works. Multiple copies. Already distributed. Ethan's face paled. I've also got an interview booked with Channel 12 in 2 hours, Slim added. Front page. Prime time. The real story. How a billionaire tried to ruin a mechanic and lost. You'll bury yourself in lawsuits, Ethan growled. Maddie stood. So will you. Only difference is, ours will be true. Ethan slammed his fist against the table. You think this is over? You think I won't come back? Slim stepped forward, voice low and calm. You already lost. You just don't know it yet. Maddie and Slim walked out without looking back. By that evening, the interview aired. Slim, in his work boots, standing in front of the ashes of his garage, telling the world the truth. Ethan's name trended, for all the wrong reasons. The board at Pierce Global issued a formal inquiry. Stocks plummeted 14% in 2 days. Internal emails leaked. Whistleblowers stepped forward. The empire Ethan built started to crack. And in the quiet wreckage, Slim and Maddie stood side by side, not as victim and savior, but as partners in survival. But the story wasn't over. Not yet. Because sometimes, even when the villain loses, the damage remains. And the final chapter was still waiting to be written. 6 months later, Slim stood outside the ribbon-cutting ceremony of Slim's Auto Rebuilt, a brand new, gleaming facility on the same lot where his old garage once stood. The sign above the doors was bold, chrome-finished, and backlit with soft LEDs. It still said Slim's Auto, but now the name carried weight, nationally franchised, locally rooted. His hands, once calloused and blackened, were now part of a larger vision. But he still wore his old work boots. Some habits never died. Maddie stood beside him, microphone in hand, addressing the crowd of press, friends, and even old customers. Her hair was pinned up, but a grease smudge stained her wrist, a small nod to where it all started. We didn't rebuild this place with money, she said. We rebuilt it with loyalty, with stubbornness, with truth. Applause. Slim clapped too, but his mind was elsewhere. Ethan Roth had vanished. After the court ruled in favor of Slim and Maddie, Ethan's assets were frozen pending investigation. The arson charges stuck, but his legal team buried the case in technicalities. By the time authorities moved to arrest him formally, he'd disappeared. Gone. Vanished. The media speculated he was hiding out in Switzerland. Or Dubai. Or maybe some Caribbean island under a fake name. Slim didn't care. Not anymore. Because the war was over. Or so he thought. 3 days after the ribbon cutting, Slim received a small envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, a single photo. It was old, maybe from a private investigator's archive. In it, Maddie sat at a cafe in San Francisco. But she wasn't alone. Ethan was seated across from her, smiling, leaning in close. Date stamped. 3 weeks before she found her way to Slim's garage. Slim stared at the photo for a long, long time. He didn't say a word to anyone. Didn't mention it to Maddie. Didn't accuse. Didn't burn it. He simply folded the photo, placed it in his pocket, and walked outside to the new garage floor. The first customer of the day had just pulled in. An old woman in a rusted Honda Civic. He greeted her with a nod, the way he always did. What seems to be the trouble? She smiled. Won't start. Probably the battery. He popped the hood and looked inside. Back to work. Back to real. Because whether the photo meant anything or not, the world kept turning. And trust, once shaken, didn't always shatter. Sometimes, it just sat quietly in your back pocket, reminding you that even fairy tales leave scars.